I think being in the shadow is a dangerous place to be for the person who's casting the shadow. That quickly fell on deaf ears at the BK Sport head office. So I quickly settled back into my lane and got on the plane. I remember I broke my chain in the start gate in seating, and I just remember thinking, oh, mint.
Eddie Masters, welcome back to the Downtime podcast. How's it going?
It's a little bit earlier than my usual podcasting time. But,
when's the usual slot?
I don't know. Not 7 a.m. But, you've got to do what you've got to do to get these things done. And when you get the red carpet rolled out for you at Downtime, you make it happen.
Yeah, I owe you a beer next time I see you, so that's all good.
Cheers.
Well, let's talk a bit about 2022, man. So, did you come into the season fully healthy? I was trying to remember whether you had anything. You've had this spate of off-season injuries or surgeries. Were you healthy coming into 22?
2022 was all good. So it was quite nice. I definitely had a bit of a bad run for a couple of years there. Just getting injured later in the season and then spending the whole off season rehabbing. So 2022 was a healthy start, and it was really nice. You almost forgot what it was like.
Yeah, coming into the season fully fit and ready to go. Lords probably wasn't the best place to start though. Like it was a bit of a tough one with all the logistics with uplifts and not many runs and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I hadn't really been riding much downhill either. And so I was to be honest, I wasn't actually that keen to go to Lords. It seemed like it seemed like a long way. But that quickly fell on deaf ears at the BK Sport head office. So I quickly settled back into my lane and got on the plane. And in hindsight, I was really stoked I went because I didn't really have any goals. I hadn't been riding any downhill. So I just was... obviously, you're always keen to qualify. But it was just a good kind of race to springboard off and get back into the groove of World Cup racing. And it was... we've got... apart from the practice issues, like the uplift issues, the track was amazing. We got so lucky with just perfect conditions. And when the conditions are like that at Lords, it's such a good racetrack. So yeah, it was cool. It was and Pivot got a cool new bus and stuff, and it just put a bit of lead in everyone's pencil for the season ahead, which was sweet. And we had a few new people joining the team, Jenna and mechanics and stuff. It was a cool race, and it was just another one of those classic World Cups to watch when you're there live as well. Amaury threw down a crazy run, the French fans going crazy. It's pretty awesome.
Nice. Were you fully focused on enduro then? Really, coming into 22, was that what you were going for?
My focus is on paper it's enduro, but I always preach that you're just a mountain biker, so racing, it's but my focus definitely would be enduro because that's the series that I race, the complete series. Whereas for this season, for example, apart from the double headers, I'm probably going to race quite a few World Cups, probably 5 or 6, and hopefully world champs. Just with the way the schedule pans out. But I just really enjoy it. I think at the level that we're racing downhill at now, I definitely do sacrifice some track speed by riding my enduro bike so much. When you see the guys everyone in the top 20 doing the amount of work behind the scenes testing and trying to find those marginal gains. I'm not really doing that. We're kind of just like set, forget, and turn up to the race with the bike that you're like used to riding. But I think, yeah. So, that's a slightly tough pill to swallow, but that's just like how it is. Like you can't be doing both. You just don't have enough time.
Yeah. Do you still feel that adding downhill into your program like helps with your enduro racing? I think you said in the past.
Oh, 100%. And the enduro racing helps with downhill massively as well, because like to be able to race fast on a track second run means you get up to speed really quick. And at a World Cup where like, you're probably only going to do 3 practice runs and 2 time training runs. Like you need to get up to speed quick. So the quicker, and I've noticed that the top guys, like especially like Danny, like, and Bernard, he's a good example. Like they're always going really quick in time training. So like the quicker that you can learn to get your track speed up with a minimal amount of runs, the quicker you'll go by the time you get into like your 7, 8, 9, 10 runs.
I guess that plays into all the setup stuff as well, right? If you're riding kind of steady for the first 3, 4, 5 runs, you're probably not riding fast enough to get the bike set up right anyway. So you need to be riding at that like race pace almost from the get-go to get the bike feeling good.
Yeah, exactly. Like a race bike at 90%, feels completely different to a race bike at 100%. So like you need to get up into those high 90s in terms of your speed on track. And the quicker you can do that, the more benefit you're going to get out of it in terms of like making those little changes and stuff. And I hate to say it, but it's definitely hit like, the cliche of F1 and stuff, but it's it's everyone's leveling up, and a big side of that is on the tech. Be it testing out of the races. A lot of these teams and riders are going to the venues before, they're all going there early. But I mean, it's giving us fans some pretty exciting racing.
It is for sure. Yeah, it's getting tighter and tighter. With that 90% thing, would you say that's similar on the enduro bike, or is the enduro bike much more capable of being ridden at like lower speeds, even if you've got race settings on it? Does that make sense? Like, is it less sensitive to that?
Yeah, that does make heaps of sense. And you can't tune an enduro bike for a venue, because like one stage might be steep and rocky and the next one might be like flat and long. So, you're going to get a mixed bag of terrain and elevation profiles and like length and even conditions in one race, and basically at every race. So like I just choose to set my bike up completely off feel. Like I just want a bike that I'm comfortable with, and especially like a bike that's like balanced. So yeah, I see people doing the telemetry stuff, but like, yes, you might find something in there, but like I can't really see how when you might be doing it on this one track, you might be testing in finale or something, but like then you're setting your bike up for that one track, with reading the graph and stuff, and how where you're going deep into your travel, but that's on that like one individual track. So like if you like copy and paste that onto a different track, it might not be the same. So and that might, like how I approach it might not be right. And I'm sure there's some suspension guys out there who are just going, oh, this guy's an idiot. What's he talking about? But in my experience, I just go off, setting my enduro bike up off comfort. Whereas the downhill bike, I'm not so like clued up with the ins and outs of suspension tuning and stuff. So my setup generally entails me rolling it to Fox and going, can you make this feel better?
It's fair enough. Geordie's pretty
like,
handy with that stuff, right?
Yeah, Geordie's super handy, and like everyone jokes that like often it's one click clockwise, one click anti-clockwise.
Give it right back.
Yeah, it's just a placebo because sometimes like Val de Sol these days is just it is so tired, the track, and it is so rough. And it was funny, like last year I was like watching Bruni go past, and Bruni's bikes always just looks like a magic carpet. I think a lot of it is his riding style as well, being so strong through like his trunk. But yeah, I was like talking to him after the race and saying how his bike looked so smooth, and he was like, "Man, you should have ridden it. It wasn't smooth." He's like, "It was horrible." Yeah. So
that track did look particularly brutal this year. Like, it's one track out of all that I visited that I would not have any interest in riding down. Like, just too much.
It was funny. I was like, looking back on it, I just approached that whole because it was just so rough, and it was like it wasn't that much. It wasn't really that fun to like ride because you couldn't. I found, I couldn't give myself the speed to like start skipping the bumps, so it was always just really rough. But then, so I just kind of like wrote it off, and then you look at like Jackson and Jordan and stuff who are like coming into it like they're frothing because they're so new to it. That a lot of it's just attitude as well. It's just like, this is what we've got, get on with it, and like so like if you can at least enjoy it regardless of how rough it is, I think it puts you in a far better position than if you're just like, this is shit.
Yeah, it's like a mindset thing.
Yeah, it's a full mindset thing. So looking back, I was like, I kind of like stitched myself because I remember I broke my chain in the start gate in seating, and I was like, I just remember like thinking, mint. That was my last downhill race for the season, and I was like, I'm and then I was like a second off qualifying, and I was actually stoked I didn't qualify. Yeah,
that's fair. Fair comment. Yeah. How was your enduro season then? Looking back, you finished 10th overall, is that right?
No, I finished 5th. Currently sitting in 10th for this year.
Sorry, got you. Yeah.
It was real good, eh? Like, 2021 was like a bit up and down. I was like crashing and stuff, but like good speed. But it's a pretty frustrating place when you just like, a few good stage results, and then the race is messed up by a few silly mistakes, and then the next race you have the same thing, and then the next race you have the same thing, and you just like, in enduro, like you used to be able to like have a few issues and stuff, but like it's pretty hard. Like if you crash now, because a crash, even a small one, like it's going to lose you 10 seconds with the actual physical crash, even if it's a small washout, the loss of speed, and then it like kind of just like gets you off that flow, messes with the mojo a little bit. But yeah, so 2023 started out really well. I think I was 8th at the first race in Scotland, so I was like back in the top 10. And felt like I was starting to like push on some good stages, and just put together a clean race, like no issues, no crashes. So I was stoked about that. And then I went to
Petson next.
Yeah, which was like, it's such a sick venue for enduro racing. Like we hit the pro stage and the final stage with both 1,000-meter descents, and it's like properly steep. So the pro stage was 15 minutes long, and it's like so rough and loamy. It's just got like everything you would put in a that is real enduro, because like it's long form downhill. There's like nothing else to it. There's no, there was no like heinous climb to make it like physical. It was just physical because it was so long.
Yeah.
Where to the point where you're like, you're taking kind of like little risks and just giving your hands a rest for 1-2 seconds there, where you just like stretch your fingers out. And you're like, man, this is a dangerous game, but you've like every little bit counts, because you've just been holding on for dear life for like 15 minutes. So it was really cool to go back to that venue, because I raced there in 2018. And I was on track for a podium until the last stage, and I crashed on the long one and bent my rotor, and that was, my day was done. So it was cool to go back there and get some redemption. I ended up winning the last stage, and I got 4th on the day. So I was like, oh man, we're definitely on an upward trajectory. And same again, didn't have any crashes, just rode a nice clean race. So yeah, and then backed it up the next weekend at Canazay with a podium. So I was like, I had 2 goals. I'm not really like big on goal setting, even though I think it's a healthy thing to do. I just think like I think subconsciously when I set goals, it like I don't like the expectation that comes with it that I put on myself, but obviously have set some goals. So I wanted to get a podium, get another podium on the EWS, and I wanted to be in the top 20 at one of the World Cups, which I did both of those within the first 5 races of the season. So I was like, oh, I should have
Stoked.
But it was cool to tick those off, because those were like some little milestones that I wanted to tick off. But yeah, and then what was the next race?
It was a gap, wasn't there? And then it was over to Whistler, right?
Yeah, and Whistler's always such a sick enduro. You go, it's just like flat out everywhere. You're always just there's no like dilly dallying around at all on the racetracks. You're just going ham, which is really awesome. And I picked up a 5th place there, just behind my teammate Wax. So it was a good day for the Pivot boys. And we actually had like all our friends from Queenstown. It was a mass migration to Whistler last year, so it was like
Nice.
It felt like a home race. Everyone was set up, getting into the fizzy bubbly at the finish line at Longhorns. So it was a real good vibe, and putting down a good race in front of all your mates and stuff, and everyone was following the race around on trackside and stuff. It was really cool, which is something like we don't get very often. So it's always cool when you have friends and family and stuff come and watch you race. Makes you appreciate it, because apart from Crankworks and Rotorua, we don't really get many home races. But that's what was cool about Derby and Medina. The first 2 rounds this year was the Aussie crowds were just going crazy. They're very passionate.
Unbelievable, yeah. Like so many people trackside.
Yeah, they're very passionate fans. Yeah, and they like had DJ decks that would go around to the stages and stuff. It was so good.
Yeah, and that should be right.
Yeah, exactly. And at Medina, I think there was like a brewery had like bought their caravan up to sell beers, and then I don't think they had a license, and they got shut down, so they just had to give all the beers away.
No way.
So the crowd was loving it.
I bet. Yeah, it looked pretty lively. And the rest of the North America leg of 22 went well. I think you took a 7th in Burke and a 5th in Sugarloaf.
Yeah, so really consistent, and I love racing in America.
Why?
Yeah,
what's so good about it?
Well, I don't know. I like Well, generally where we race in America is always the weird and the wonderful. These small mountain towns, and you just meet some interesting characters and stuff. And we love going to Walmart.
Who doesn't?
Just the small things. But I don't know. I just really, really like, and all the people, American people are like super welcoming. They're always really interested in like why you've come to like where we are and stuff. So like we just like going to like a random pub, and we just like sit up and just chat to some locals and stuff, and get a feel for the place. And then we always try and do some like cool outside of biking activities. So like we went full redneck and went side-by-siding and even just going to the gun shops and stuff like that. It's weird and wonderful, but I really, really enjoy racing in America. And the two races they put on were like really, there's a couple of stages that, because it rained a little bit, that were quite tricky, but they had a lot of the like ski field grass bombing. So like just big grass turns, and I grew up like I grew up watching the tail end of the Norba generation. And seeing all those, like Mount Snow and Mount Hood and like all those Norbas that just looked epic. So you kind of like feel like you're back racing those kind of races when you're just bombing at max speed, no brakes, and just ripping grass turns. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a mountain bike racer that doesn't like flat out grass turns.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, the footage from those turns was incredible to watch as well. Like, see some of you guys absolutely like lit through those turns was cool. Yeah, reminiscent of old racing back in the day.
Yeah, it's really sick. It was good, eh?
Yeah. And then the season wrapped up after Val di Sole, the final downhill. We had Crans, Montana, and Ludenvier. The results, compared to the rest of the season for you, were like a bit lower, 12th, I think, and then 22nd. Were you like, was it burnout? Like it's so much racing last year.
Oh, it's funny. Like Crans was probably the best I felt all year.
Okay.
And I felt like that was the fastest I was going all year. I just had a few issues in the race, which I was really disappointed about, because like it's like, I don't know, a bit of sweet, like the one that got away type thing. With a small crash and then a mechanical and then a crash in the pro stage. So I just like, I was stoked to get 12th but you're like, oh, what could have been? Because I felt really, really, really good on the bike, and I just quite enjoyed the style of stages there. Even though it snowed.
Oh no.
Yeah. It still baffles me that we end up racing bikes while it's snowing, but
yeah, wait for Mont-Saint-Anne.
Oh, I know, Mont-Saint-Anne in October. I was joking the other day that whoever scheduled Mont-Saint-Anne for October was probably the person that changed it to EDR.
Fair comment.
Yeah. But so I was like, Crans Montana, a little bit gutted, but obviously happy to walk away with some points and stuff. But I just felt like that was of the races for the year, that was the one that got away. And then Ludenville, it was just, everyone has them, but I didn't feel bad on track. I just wasn't quick.
Okay.
Of where I wanted to be. So, and it just happens. You just got to like, I think as a racer, as you mature or whatever they call it, you just, you have those days. You can't expect to be on every day, I just, but yeah, I didn't feel like I wasn't making mistakes or anything. I was just running like 20th. And you're like, oh, Okay, guess I'm 20th today.
Yeah, well,
But
there's not many people putting in as many races as you and Matt are. I think on the whole circuit, right? Doing full season of both is a lot to take on.
yeah, it definitely is. But then, like, I don't know. Like, yeah, it's a tough one because, like, I don't like I'm still not like in a position where I'd really like want to go home because like if I went home, it's winter, like proper winter, like where I live, like everyone's skiing and stuff, and I'll just be skiing every day. If I went home, I wouldn't be riding my bike at all. And then not really having a base or somewhere that like, so like if I'm away for 5 or 6 months, the best way for the time to pass quickly, because like, you do get like a bit homesick and stuff, or like, you miss your mates and whatnot, but like the weeks roll the quickest when you're racing. So it's almost quite tricky to like plan to go somewhere in the downtime. You do, like sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish we didn't have 2 weeks off. I just, it's easier to go to a race and just run your routine. And yeah, and then like with the whole downhill thing, I just still really enjoy racing it. Yeah, probably not going to like keep on the same schedule for, definitely taper off in the next couple of years. But I'll do like with our team as a whole is kind of, it's in a bit of a transition. It's cool. Like, we've got Jake Jewett and Jenna, who are in the downhill side. So now there's, it's okay for me and Matt to step back every now and then. But also like we can be really useful because like that's the next thing that our team like needs is like, is leveling up on the tech side. So like we can help with that. If it's line spotting and stuff, because like line spotting is quite a tricky one. Like you've got to have a lot of trust in the person that's giving you the advice. So at the downhills that I won't race this year, definitely try and be out there helping helping the team and helping the other guys, because it's something like I enjoy doing, and I think there's like maybe a lot of benefit that we can gain from stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Line guy, I like it. I wanted to chat about your team boss and colleague Bernard. He had a pretty good year in 2022. Did you see that coming? Did you see much difference in Bernard coming into the year?
No, but like there's no difference. He's always brimming with confidence. But I think the biggest change that he made was making a conscious effort to ride a lot more downhill leading into the season, and then he saw the payoff that came with that. Because where he lives in Surrey, it's not exactly it might be a hotbed for downhill talent, kind of, with like Brendan and stuff, but it's not really like, it's definitely not a place that I'd go to prepare for World Cup racing.
There's no tracks that are enough to get you ready for a World Cup, eh?
No, it's good for like harnessing your skills, and that's how those guys got so bloody talented, all of them. But yeah, and then so with the evolution of Dovey and stuff, Bernie's been spending a lot of time there, and he was spending a lot of time there last off season, riding a lot of downhill. And I think he just really put his head down in terms of like, obviously he is the busiest man in mountain biking, hands down. There's no, but I think he just put a bit more riding and stuff on his plate, and maybe a bit more prep. He's got a good trainer that he's been working with for a couple of years now, and I think when you work with someone for a few years, like then you start ironing out all those little things, and like that I think Jarrett, his trainer, has probably figured out like what works for Bernard and or how, like how can you get the best out of your athlete, or how can you make sure they're doing the work without it becoming like too arduous, or like, because like often it's with a trainer and stuff, it's like they're not there with you. So if they can put together a program that that a rider's going to like do, rather than just like, oh, okay, I'll skip over those intervals today and go dirt jumping or something, like build it in such a way that all the work gets done, then you're probably going to get the biggest return, I reckon. And that's what
must have been.
I think Bernie did. But it was really cool. It's like he's been. I don't know how many times he's come 16th. Like, yeah, which like on paper it's a good result, and it's cool that the bike industry still gets behind. Like, it's not like Supercross where like 16th would be like the worst possible result. Everyone's still like, that was a really good run. But yeah, I think he was hungry. And he seems hungrier, even more hungry coming into this season after a really good year. I think he wants for nothing more than to get that first win. He came painstakingly close in snowshoe. That he really wants to tick that box.
It's going to be an interesting year.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier, like the team's kind of growing. You got the bus this year. Like there's definitely a bigger infrastructure there, more riders. I'm going to say it's more professional as well. Like, does that get in the way of the fun at any point? Because like you've always been a rider that seems to thrive off having a good time. Like the performance comes hand in hand with that for you. Has it become harder as the team sort of grows and gets a bit more professional?
Yeah, a few people have asked me this before, and I think that the professionalism that's coming with like the team now, it isn't. It's not like everyone's taking it more seriously, which is good. It's just that like we have all the systems in place. So like the people and the atmosphere haven't changed one bit. It's just there's a bit more help around the pits. There's everyone's got their spots, and everything looks a lot tidier. All the systems are working well together. But the people, like, we still have just as much fun on the road, and nothing's changed since day one. From the top down, it's still pretty good. And
you definitely managed to be the noisiest team at the after World Champs in Leger with that the burnouts on the motorbike after Jenna took the win in junior women's. Like, you could literally, the whole town, you could hear that noise wherever you were.
Oh, it was so good. And like, it's just we were like, there's genuine stoke that because we were all just so genuinely happy for Jenna, that like, why wouldn't you celebrate? I think
what an event though, eh?
Yeah, with the motorbike and stuff, it was just crack up. They bought that motorbike for, I think they bought it for €200 off Marketplace, and drove about an hour away to get it the week of the race. And then Bernard's brother Boris, who's our bus driver and chief tinkerer, him and one of the Kiwi motocross boys spent the whole day just tinkering, trying to getting it working again for the big burnouts. And then so they didn't blow it up. It did all those burnouts after the race, and then
for hours. Hamish, for hours.
Yeah, Hamish McDonald, who's the motocross guy, who went halves with Boris, he took it to the hard enduro world champs the weekend after, and it just did the same thing, just more burnouts. So a GSX 600 is a good piece of machinery when it comes to doing lots and lots of burnouts. But yeah, like
Pretty
you said,
robust.
that was an amazing event. I was cool. My mum and dad came and watched because I was like,
nice.
Leger will be a sick one. They actually biked from Sweden to Leger.
Impressive.
Yeah, and they were pretty blown away, especially with the French 1, 2, and 3, and then having to get the police escort out of there, and it was awesome.
Do you think we'll ever see something like that again? Do you think downhill can get bigger than that?
I don't know, but I think I think it just sets like a standard, and then but like obviously the French 1, 2, and 3 definitely made it a bit of a crazier like celebration. But I mean, downhill's only growing. I just hope that like I don't know, that it stays a little bit rugged like it is. Because I think that's, it's like...
It's part of the charm, right?
Yeah, it's part of the charm. Yeah. And then with like Supercross like is the clean cut version of riding motorbikes, and then outdoors is the rugged. So like if you can float in between the two, then I think we're in a pretty good space.
Nice. Yeah. Well, yeah, lots of change from last season to this season with, as everybody knows, I guess the ESO takeover, Discovery replacing Red Bull, etc. There's been loads of chat about this, and I guess we know a lot more now. There was a lot of speculation in the off season, but have you been involved much with like the riders' union side of things, and like what's your take on it all so far?
I haven't really been involved at all, but I'm definitely up to date with. Bernard's very involved because he's a stakeholder essentially as a team manager, and also quite a vocal rider.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, change is good. It's just I think it'll just be a case of like, let's see. I there's that saying like bold strategy, cotton. But I was like, maybe I thought, just my opinion, I thought that maybe they would have come in and like maybe have not ruffled so many feathers in the first year, and just focused on putting out a good product, like broadcast wise, and then you do your subtle changes and your minor tweaks. But I don't necessarily agree with the semi-final. My theory on that is, as a racer, because I think like you can look at statistics and stuff and you can be like, oh, okay, like, on average there's 3 crashes in a finals run. But like the statistics don't necessarily show like, as a rider, like the risk, like often you get away with a lot of stuff because you're like taking the risk. You get a little bit sketchy. No one sees that, but like on the bike, you feel it, and you get away with that. So like with the semi-final, then you're like doubling that risk, and then there's twice as much of that. Am I going to get away with it? And I think, maybe might see a few more crashes and injuries and stuff in the runs that count, because even if you're Amaury Pierron, you're protected and stuff for the super final or whatever they're going to call it. But yeah, like you make one mistake and you're on a podium pace, and you can quickly pop outside the top 30 and like not qualify into the final. So like, and with the points that are on offer, I see it as 2 race runs.
Yeah.
Yeah, not and then like if your semi-final run is the speed of your race run in 2022, then you might find people pushing the boundaries a bit further, and then same thing. But like that'll be exciting.
It makes for good television, but it doesn't necessarily make for healthy athletes, I guess.
Yeah, but like I mean, everyone, you've got to ride within your limits. Otherwise, like you literally will end yourself really quickly. So I don't think it'll be like a crazy upsweep and injuries and crashes and stuff. And also one thing I think, or that I'm, same thing. Always, this is all like opinion. Is that like, when you watch like F1 and stuff, or any sport that's got like multiple athletes racing against each other on the same track, like it's never the same, like because the race will always pan out differently. Whereas like if I go 2 seconds quicker on my semi-final run, on my finals run than my semi-final run, like to the untrained eye, it looks like I've done like a carbon copy of the same run.
Mm-hmm.
But like I've just scaled up by 1% down the whole track. So like, it kind of will look the same, even though like you're broadcasting both runs. So like, I think you'll find, even though they're broadcasting the semi-final, only the core fans will tune in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The semi-final is broadcast for free, I think, which I don't know if that will bring more people to it as a result of that, but I don't really see the point in watching the semi if you're not going to watch the final. Like, it feels kind of empty. I guess you get to see some riding, but it doesn't excite me, I think, to watch the semi in that way.
Nah, and like if you compare it to 2022, like they only broadcast 30 in the live stream anyway. So yeah, it just seems like a lot of changes, but maybe like not necessary ones. But like, don't get me wrong, change is good, and this could be. I think there's a huge opportunity here with, Discovery and the scope and the reach that this has, and like, everyone's like, oh, like they've ditched Red Bull and stuff, but I'm pretty sure like Red Bull's already a partner. Like they haven't been ousted from the sport, and I don't think they would want to be. So yeah, I think.
Have you heard much feedback from the test event? Like, were people that there? Have you heard anything good or bad from that? Because it seemed to be broadly well received from what I could work out.
Yeah. No, I haven't actually spoken to anyone who went. And when I saw it was raining, I was pretty stoked to not be there. But like, it's good that they're doing that. And just because obviously, like with such a long break between racing, it's cool for like the top teams to get together and have a bit of a dress rehearsal. It's good for the riders to like, even the subtle changes, like how they're using poles instead of tape now. Just like little things, just to iron out any issues that might have arisen. But like, I've got 100% faith in the crew that is steering the ship. Like, I think they've done a great job getting enduro to where it is. And Chris Ball's got he's like in a pretty tricky position because like, he's going to be so quick to fall on his own sword if anything goes wrong. But like, I think that if anyone can do it, like he's got a wealth of knowledge and experience of like how the sport works. It's not like he's new to it. He's done it from the ground up with like or the UCI technical delegate, and he made some pretty like crucial changes, brought in the junior category and stuff like that back in when he was in charge. So yeah, I think it'll be different, but I'm definitely on their side with like, you can't just write stuff off just because you don't like the change. You're better off jumping on board and trying to like help,
Yeah, for sure.
rather than being a speed bump.
Yeah, and it's going to take a little while to settle in, I guess. Like everything will bed in over the next couple of seasons. It'd probably feel a bit weird the first few races.
Yeah, but like everyone's still going to turn. Like everyone's going to turn up. We're all going to race. Like, yeah, we're just going to race twice, and and like not everyone will race twice. It's just 30 people. Yeah. But it's shaped. They've definitely picked a good year to like start with this new format, because like the racing, there's like shit. There's probably I would say there's about 6 or 7 solid contenders for the World Cup overall. Yeah.
In both categories, pretty much.
Yeah, so like, regardless of the format and all that stuff, they're going to get really good racing. It's going to be super tight. It's going to be. I'm quite looking forward to it. Like just from a fan, just as a fan.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Jackson and Jordan moving up? Because they're already not messing around, eh? Jackson came over and took your national champs. He's taken the Aussie national champs. Jordan won the first national here and seeded fastest at Fort William, but punctured in his race run. Like, they're already showing the current elite field the way.
And he was 2 seconds up at the road crossing at Lord's.
Yeah.
At the test event. And he was not hanging around in those conditions. When I saw that video of him crashing, I was like, shit. Because the section, I'm like, fair play. Man, that's going to be a battle of the ages. They're both. I don't think you could. I would be seriously surprised if both of them didn't have a podium within the first 3 races.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. They could easily come out and go 1-2 in any order, like round 1. I think Lenzerheide is like, I don't know. I reckon it's going to be really interesting to see. I think it all just comes down to whether they can just like manage the mental side of things. But if I was their like mental coach or whatever, I'd be like, you'd be trying to stress to them that you don't need to like add any more speed. You just need to ride at the speed you're going. Because you're already like track speed, you're already probably one of the fastest guys on the hill. So like, just because you've stepped up to elite, don't like add another chunk of speed into your run. Because like, all their preseason stuff, like, because that's when you'll start crashing, and then you quickly find yourself at the bottom of the hill and you're trying to climb the mountain to get back to where you started at the start of the season.
Who would you put money on? If you had to put money on one of them to win first, which one would you choose out of the two, and why? Like, who do you think is more likely to take it?
I'll probably go Jordan, because he's just I think being in the shadow is a dangerous place to be for the person who's casting the shadow.
It's fair comment, yeah.
Yeah. but like that's just it's like flipping a coin.
Yeah.
It could like that's only based off there'd just be that, and he'll probably have that his whole career of just this little fire and chip on his shoulder, because Jackson's Jackson and Jordan's a bit more quiet and behind the scenes, but I think when you see how he rides, he's got some dog in him.
He definitely has. And his ability to change bike, suspension, team, everything, and not even show a hint of, struggling to get up to speed is pretty ominous.
Yeah. And he's definitely going on to Specialized Gravity. Their bike and stuff is pretty it's pretty amazing when you see it on track, and that just comes down to the amount of work they put in behind the scenes. But yeah, so he's definitely got a bike that is up to speed to win on for sure.
and teammates to follow or lead even. It'd be interesting to see how those two cope with having him on the squad.
It's interesting. I was listening to a podcast with Blinky the other day on the OTB podcast, and he was talking about when he signed to Lapierre, which basically was Specialized Gravity, and it was him, Cam Cole, and Loic, and in Loic's first season in Elite, Blinky and Loic were I don't know, 5th and 6th in the overall, and they would just go back and forth, be so close. But Blinky said even though they were such good friends, as racers, it made you resent each other, because in that team, Blinky was the big dog. He was the guy on the big paycheck, and Loic was the guy who was coming up. But then the come up happened so quick that now they're just fierce competitors, and they maintained a really healthy friendship. But he said as racers, they started to hate each other, and I think there's just you can draw huge parallels with what might be going on in the Specialized team with both Finn and Loic and Jordan coming in, because Finn came in, obviously won everything in junior and stuff, but he still had he seemed to have quite a lot of learning to do. He only took his first World Cup win last year. But if Jordan comes in and seriously ruffles from some feathers, it could be an interesting dynamic under that tent.
Yeah, and 3 out of your 6 or 7 are in that tent, which is insane.
Yeah.
50% basically of that podium are in one team, which is
if I had to
incredible.
if I had to do my picks, in no order, you've got those 3, Finn, Loic, Jordan.
Yeah.
I'll put Jackson and Laurie in there. I won't put Greg in for the overall, given his injuries, but I'll definitely put him in for some fast runs.
Yeah.
Loris.
Yeah. Amory and Tebow.
Oh yeah, we're about 10. Amory, Tebow, and then BK and Matt Walker. Because I'm interested to see. I think that the new bike that Saracen have is a step up from their previous bike. Just from how it looks, it's basically a demo, and I think it's a proven system FSR. So, that's 10 guys.
And we haven't talked about Aaron and Dakota yet.
Oh yeah, and Dakota for sure. If Dakota can, he was up at the second to last split at Lenzerheide last year. He crashed just after, or maybe just before that, whale tail.
Yeah, coming into the whale tail, yeah.
So, and
they've
had,
also got a new bike, which apparently is a step up as well.
Yeah. Troy, Luca.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? What about in the women's side? Because there's like quite a few things in there that are unpredictable as well. Like obviously, Cami had an incredible season, but Miriam's coming into the season with another concussion injury. Marine's on a comeback. We don't quite know where she's at. We don't really know where Tane's at yet, but she's back and looks like she's going to be racing. And then we've got loads of junior women coming up as well. Like it's quite, it's going to be quite a tight field.
Yeah. The junior girls coming through, like Isabella,
Phoebe, Jenna.
Phoebe and Jenna. I mean, I think they'll have like a little bit of figuring out just with, it's just that next level. There's you've come out of juniors so confident because, or like so used to just like going up to the runs and getting on the podium and stuff, and then when you don't have that, like that confidence, I think it's like you could easily crash or like you go too hard. So it's just like finding that balance for those girls coming into it, and then Cammy's pretty, because I know Cammy like quite well and I see behind the scenes. She's this is pretty hard to crack. Just the amount of work and prep and she's got that. She doesn't. She dots every I and crosses every T before the race.
Yeah.
And then like Gracie Hemstreet.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Jess Blewett. I think Jess has got like crazy, really good skills. And then as the like obviously she's already had a few podiums and stuff, but I think the racing, once the like racecraft catches up to the skills, then she's going to be a real threat, because she's in that new generation that can jump really well, which opens up, all these young girls. They've learnt like, they're part of the bike park generation and stuff. And I think that just opens up a different kettle of fish on track. Well, like, I mean, in terms of like different lines are possible, they're not so hung up on like the big jumps. They just like get it done in the first couple of runs and then move on. So like the focus can go onto the more technical parts of the track, which is like, I think that's maybe what some of the previous generation have been like lacking a little bit. And that's, I guess, not
Valley was the first of that generation to come through, but she's had that tough couple of seasons. Be interesting to see if she comes out swinging this year, like that. Like you say, the skills that come from that bike park upbringing are pretty valuable at a World Cup.
Yeah, and just like you see them out on hardtails and things like that. So it's like, I think as mountain bikers, they're a bit more well-rounded than just downhill racers. And and then when it comes to on track, all those skills like come together and make it pretty good bike racer.
Yeah, for sure. What are your thoughts on one of your enduro colleagues, Hattie Harnden, having a bit of a go at downhill? She won the first UK national here in Riola in pretty horrific conditions, and she was 11th, I think, at Fort William, 12.5 seconds off the win, but she's done 8 runs at Fort William compared to other riders in that group that have been there kind of putting in laps on many more occasions. Like, it's pretty interesting to see. I think a world's entry might be on the cards. I guess
that's what she's aiming for. and I wouldn't be like a world's entry. She's got really good skills. She's got amazing strength and fitness. And Fort William's a tricky one. Like the first time you go there, it's quite hard to like. I always say like you almost need someone to show you the speed, because like the track's really fast the whole way down, minus the woods. That you might be going like average speed 35 k's an hour, which feel like, or 40 k's an hour, which like feels fast to you, but then the actual speed you want to be doing is like 42, which isn't like a much difference, but like you need someone to like drag you along to be like, okay, this is how fast you go. Because otherwise it can take quite a while to like just get up to that next level, because in your head you feel like it's really fast. So I wouldn't be surprised if like there was a small case of that with Hattie's like first hit out at the fort. But yeah, enduro, like it forces you into like quite good skills, because you're riding like loads of different terrain, and like with minimal practice. So you've got to trust your instinct and like hit lines confidently, or just like with commitment. So yeah, I think Hattie should, well, hopefully she definitely gets a world's entry, and I would put her as a wild card for sure, because like it's a big track that lends itself to like good strength and fitness, and she kind of ticks all the boxes. I think a bit more downhill bike time, and maybe like a bit of outside of the race time on the track. She could definitely be in the mix in August.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, eh? Like Fort William, there's been a few people over the years that have been sort of Fort William's almost their speciality track, like Greg Minnaar and more latterly Amory Piron. But it still feels like it's wide open, the amount of talent in the field. Like it only takes one small mistake there. And even Jackson last year and Jordan last year, both of their like performances on that hill were incredible, taking some insane lines that I remember walking with Nico and he saw Jordan through a line and was like, okay, that's on, is it? Like, he was just blown away by it.
Yeah. And, just like going back on the, off the back of the Hattie thing, I know Richie Rude is trying to get an entry.
Yeah.
And because he won the Oceanias. I don't know if he's planning on racing a World Cup before World Champs, but he was like I think my understanding was that he was like hoping to maybe get an entry with doing well at Oceanias or getting lots of points and stuff. Depends on what their selection criteria is. Even though like the US has a pretty stacked team nowadays. But I'm really excited to see how he goes. Like hopefully it means, because he's obviously riding his downhill bike now. Yeti have finally put one together for him, because I know he's been keen to get back on the big rig for a while. But I mean, he'll definitely race snowshoe in Mont Saint Anne, because it's at the end of the enduro season, and I reckon he'll go really well.
Yeah, no doubt. That would be cool to see. What about Sam Hill coming back? That's looking like it's definitely happening. He's been at quite a few races. He was at Fort William this weekend.
Jesus has risen.
Yeah, back from the ashes.
Yeah, he's back. Like I grew up like idolizing the bloke. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked, and he brings a lot of hype, eh? Regardless, it's like Ricky Carmichael coming back for like a few races. There's a few iconic mountain bikers that have raced downhill, and he's definitely one of them.
100%.
Yeah. And
do you think there's results left in him? Like, do you think we'll see something special from him when he gets going?
Yeah, I think there's definitely results in him for sure, and I know he's fired up. He wouldn't have gone to the BDS if he wasn't taking it seriously.
Yeah.
It just might take a couple of, it just might take a bit of getting into. Yeah, because it's just it's a hard one to like crack. But like if anyone can do it, it's like fuck. The guy is a downhill legend. It's not like you don't forget how to race bikes. Yeah, and obviously he lost motivation in the enduro side of things. But like, look what happened when he was motivated in enduro. He went back to back, won the first 2 seasons that he basically entered. And I think so like he's pretty fired up for the downhill program that they're doing. So if history repeats itself, then he would definitely be one to watch.
Exciting stuff. And we've got a new downhill venue at Ludenvier. You know it from the enduro side of things. Any insight on the downhill track there? I think I saw some stuff. Maybe the Specialized lot had been there recently and were saying good things, but do you think it'll host the downhill well?
Yeah, I think it'll be really good. It'll probably start off, it'll definitely have like a big jump section, and then it's quite steep all the way down to the bottom. Interesting venue because it's a tiny town and it's hosting a triple header. But they'll make an amazing track. The dirt's really good. The it's got good gradient. It's got all the makings. It's got a god. It's got a god now. Sorry, I'm just yawning.
The 7 a.m. start's caught up with you.
No, it's got like good lift, good track, good dirt. Yeah, I think it'll be sick. And they're definitely like talking to a lot of riders, taking on board of like what they would put into the track. So even Bernie and Thomas the Stack went and like walked it with the track guys when we were at the Enduro last year. So yeah, no, and like good. New venue. Yeah, I'm all for it. The more new venues we can add, the better.
100%. Yeah, it's got to be a good thing. Let's talk a bit about your 23 season so far. Two races in, Derby, Modena. How's it been so far? 8th and a 10th, was it?
Yeah. Modena was awesome. It's such a sick venue. If anyone ever gets the opportunity to go to Tasmania, make sure you go and ride Modena. It's a proper like bikers bike park. So we had great fun. And I don't know. I just felt like if I'm being honest, I felt like I was like just wasn't quite where I wanted to be. Like fitness and preparation wise, and I for no real reason. I just felt like I had a lot of stuff on leading up to those 2 races, so it was just like a bit of a disrupted preparation, with like had a couple of weddings and stuff, and that just like disrupts your week. And I don't know if it actually does physically, but I think mentally, like you feel like you're not as prepared, and then that self-doubt starts creeping in. So I was really happy. Like I went in with, I was keen, obviously, said I would have been happy to walk out of there in the top 10, and that's what I did. So like ticked those boxes. And then Derby was pretty tricky because it rained quite significantly, and the elevation profiles of the stages aren't very like steep. So it was a bit of a slog. I remember we were riding up to the last stage, and like when everyone's gone quiet that they're off it. Yeah, I was like, It's just, we've been riding with 50 Ks in, and it's just the whole day has been in the mud, and you're like, oh. I remember I like just miscalculated the food that I took and ran out of food, and I was about 20 minutes from the top, and I started to bonk, and I was just like, I hate mountain biking. get me off this hill. But no, it was like Tasmania is such a sick place to ride, and the people were like, it's kind of like the weird cousin from Australia and New Zealand, like a little bit inbred. Not Tasmania, just like if Australia and New Zealand were cousins, that would be the baby.
Nice.
Yeah, and no, we had a great time. We like did a bit of surfing, cruised around. We had rented like a 5-berth caravan for Derby because the accommodation's like a bit tricky, and yeah, just made a bit of a holiday out of it. It was good fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good way to start the year. I checked in with Google AI to find out what it knew about you. And it said he is confident he can improve on his 2022 result and win the overall title. So is that a goal you've got written down?
I don't know if winning the overall is ever which is like weird. It's never really been on my radar. It'd just be like cool to find myself in that position type thing. Yeah. Whereas I don't know if that's a healthy or an unhealthy way to approach it, but that's just like I would rather, you get the ball rolling, and if you can win a race, and then if you can get up there, then you start thinking of those thoughts. But not something that I think of early in the season.
That's
which I'm sure sensible. I'm sure other people are like, there's definitely guys out there who are like, I want to win, and if I don't win, then that's a disappointment. But I don't know. As I stand today, I'm just happy to go along for the ride because it's good fun.
Nice. And we've had quite a big gap. So you spent a bit of time at home in New Zealand. You're off to Canada tonight, right? What are the plans over there?
So my girlfriend's from Canada. So go and spend a couple of weeks cruising around with her, and lucky enough to convince Geordie to let me go do my fox testing with him in Canada.
Sweet.
So, bit of a riding, definitely a riding trip with a little bit of work, and going to go race the second round of the Canadian Enduro Nationals this weekend in Kelowna. Just like hitting a few spots, go a few days in Whistler, a few days in Squamish. Just like in normally Queenstown, our bike park's open till May, but they're replacing the gondola, so now is like kind of my favourite time of year to ride down there, but with everything kind of shutting down, I was like, go. Me and my girlfriend will go to Canada a bit earlier, and and I'm looking forward to breaking the flight up because I'm kind of overdoing those long hauls to Europe.
Yeah, that's fair. When are you heading to Europe then? Are you getting in for Lenzerheide or? Oh no, you've got Finale.
We've got Finale. So I'll probably fly to Europe around the 23rd of May. And my brother Win, him and his wife have just had a baby, so I'm going to go and stay with them for a week, and he lives in Salzburg at the moment, so planning on just riding a bunch of downhill for a week, because I haven't ridden my downhill bike since the end of February.
No way.
Yeah, because we had Enduro National Champs, and then Tasmania, and then we just haven't really been able to lap at home, because with this new gondola going in and it being school holidays, it was like you'd go there for a day and do like 3 runs, So I was like, I'd really be keen to get some laps in on my downhill bike, because then the next time I ride it will be at Lenzerheide. So gonna go do some leogang and some schladming with the big brother and hang out with my new nephew, and then go to finale. So got a few cool little stops coming up in the next few weeks, which is sick.
Nice, should be good, man. Well, we should start wrapping up. Before we do that, I'm going to be doing a little bit of downhill racing this year, which I'm excited about.
Nice.
And
yeah, we should definitely talk about that.
Yeah. Any advice? Like, I feel like I need as much help as I can get here.
Just enjoy it, eh? Yeah. Yeah. Enjoy it when it goes well, and enjoy it when it goes wrong.
Because it will go wrong.
Yeah, because you're going to you can learn just as much from when it goes wrong as if you can from when it goes right, you know?
Yeah.
Because when it goes right, you're like, oh, okay, let's do that again. And when it goes wrong, you'll be like, oh, let's don't do that.
Yeah. So however it goes, there's good things to come out of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think in the early days, just the key is just you're not racing against anyone until the results get printed, you know? Like, it's you, the clock, and the track. So yeah, I think you never want to be like, oh, I want to beat that guy, because then you get disappointed if it doesn't happen, or I never think people should think they're better than someone, because then when that person beats them, well, they weren't better than them. But then they just get all pissed off because they got beaten by Joe Bloggs or whatever, and they think they're better than Joe Bloggs, but you're like, well, actually, Joe Bloggs beat you. So,
yeah. And I've been sucked into that trap in the past at enduro races, to be fair, like wanting to beat mates and stuff like that. And it's not healthy.
No, it's not healthy. It just brings in that extra weight of expectation, and then you start doing, it just completely messes with the processes that you might have or the routine that you might have worked on.
Yeah.
So the more, in a game that's all about the top 2 inches, it's about trying to eliminate any of these external things that might be coming into it, and just, giving yourself total focus and stuff on doing that one run rather than thinking. And that's why I always, even on tracks, you might see, you might be at a race with Jordan Williams and he gaps 3 stumps, and you're like, oh, Jordan Williams is gapping those 3 stumps. But there might be a line around them that's only a fraction slower. But for someone who doesn't want because even in World Cups, there might be a gnarly gap, and you're kind of hinging your train of thought on that gap until you've done it in your run, and then it unlocks this clarity, and you can get back into it. So sometimes it's better to not do the gap, but nail everything else, rather than using 10% of your train of thought into focusing on that gap, because you want to you want 100% of the top 2 inches, the brain. And I see it on the live feed, often I'll see, guys doing, I guess it's the risk to reward thing, but they won't do a gnarly gap in finals, and they don't lose any time, they still win the race, and you're like, oh, I've been doing that gap because I thought I had to. Damn.
Damn it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. I'm out there to enjoy it at the end of the day. That's the main thing for me, I think, is to have fun. And just having the opportunity to ride modern downhill bikes is already an insane amount of fun. They're incredible bits of kit. Loving that.
Yeah, nothing quite comes. Nothing's quite the same on a good downhill bike on a good track, and then you just you put down a good. Because the cool thing is if you put down a good run, and if you put down a good run that you're stoked with and come 30th, and the guy who wins the race puts down a good run and he comes first, it's like you still both have the same feeling. You've still like, that's the fastest you've been on track. That's the only like thing that you've got to compare it to. So like in your mind, you were like, you've just won your own race, because like the feeling that you got was like, yeah, I ripped it. Which is pretty sick.
Yeah, that's it. I like it. Right, man, we should wrap up there, and I'll let you get on with your day, because I know you've got a lot to do before you hop on a plane this evening.
Yeah,
Thanks for getting up early
it.
to chat. And I hope the season goes well, man. I'm looking forward to seeing if AI was right. And I'll catch you, I think, in Leargang, and I'll sort you out a beer to say thanks for getting up early.
Nice cold Stiegel, please.
No problem. Nice one.
Sweet.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, dude.